Okay, this is Channel 12.
KBDI Colorado Public Television is proud to present.
This is viewer-sponsored public television serving the Front Range, KBDI TV 12, Broomfield, Colorado.
Good evening, Colorado. Those bells from the fabulous Duke Ellington Orchestra mean it's time to go high atop the beautiful Five Points Media Center in Denver, Colorado for KBDI's weekly look at the issues of our time, Colorado Inside Out, keeping our ever-watchful beady eye on Colorado politics and Colorado politicians. Brought to you by the Denver Dry Goods Company. And now, here's the host of Colorado Inside Out.
Greetings, everyone out there in Radioland. Welcome to Colorado Inside Out, KBDI Radio's weekly look at the issues affecting the citizens of this fine state. I'm your host, Gino Fallon. It's our special end-of-the-year episode where we recap the big issues of 1927 and look ahead to 1928. We're trying out a new experimental technology for tonight's show. We're filming our little radio broadcast and capturing sound at the same time, just like that new movie, The Jazz Singer. So if you like what you're hearing over the air, come to a local theater here in Denver soon to see this new wonder of the talking film. In the meantime, let me introduce our esteemed panel of journalists and community leaders that join our roundtable each week. The lovely socialite Helen Bonfils, who is a lover of the arts and also has a very close family connection to the Denver Post.
Yes, Mr. O'Fallon, it is so nice to be here with you tonight. As you know, my father, Frederick Bonfils, runs the Denver Post, and should he ever drop dead, say in 6 years, I will take over for him and be in charge of that august paper. But right now, my concern is making sure this is a better cultural city.
Well, thank you. Good to see you. Well, we also have a fine gentleman, a man of letters, the tenured Professor Chumley Drizzlewit. He is a professor of ancient studies at Colorado Women's College, and he also happens to be a golf coach. Nice to see you, sir.
Cogito ergo sum.
I think, therefore, I am.
Very good, sir.
Only somebody who went to the University of Colorado would know that. We have somebody here by that, with that distinction. Pearl Carney, Denver Star reporter and one of Denver's top Negro reporters. It is nice to see you.
Thank you so much. I must admit, my primary area of study was journalism, and I really didn't take any of the antiquities, including Latin.
Well, it's amazing these progressive curriculums. You can get a journalism degree these days. We have a fine newspaper reporter here with us now, Robert Chase, a reporter from the Rocky Mountain News. Nice to see you.
How you doing? I'm just fresh up from the coal strike down in Aguilar and ready to get on with it here in Denver.
That's an amazing story. Well, let's get started. Topic 1, Mayor Benjamin Franklin Stapleton won election to his second term earlier this year, despite public cries against the Ku Klux Klan. Supporting his first campaign and in the recall election, the mayor faced just 1 year after taking office. Running for his second term, Stapleton tried to distance himself from the Klan, and in response, the Klan, the Tramway Company, and Senator Lawrence C. Phipps all backed City Council President Harry W. Risley, who came in a distant third place in a field of 14 candidates. Has Mayor Stapleton truly reformed his own heart where the Klan is concerned? And how long can this guy keep hold of the reins of our city? Ms. Bonfils.
Well, as you no doubt know, my daddy didn't approve of Mr. Stapleton running for this second term. But it is not just because of the Klan, which I think will be rousted from this state. It's a disgrace, and they will be rousted. But Benjamin Stapleton has some very odd notions for what we're going to do in this city. For example, he's very interested in building an airport. Now, he has cited some land that is a good 10 miles from the center of downtown. Now, everyone knows that an airport more than 10 miles from downtown just simply will not work.
It could never work.
It could never work. So this, as my daddy has named it, he's calling it Stapleton's Folly. I understand that people think air travel will be the wave of the future, but I think this airport is a big mistake.
Professor Drizzlewit, why couldn't they move this airport closer to town?
Oh, I'm sure, because Stapleton's buddies had some speculative interest in it. And besides that, he's the kind of man who would have the airport named after himself. Just a low class, really the kind of man who's appropriately attracts the kind of trash like the Ku Klux Klan. Let's acknowledge this is grown men and women dressing up in these ridiculous costumes with these pointed caps as if they were the school dunces with the points on top. And it's just shocking that after this original Ku Klux Klan existed for a while during Reconstruction, that just because people saw some movie, there was a talking picture called Birth of a Nation.
W.D. Griffin.
And that's what got this modern thing started, as if it's just disgraceful that Americans are that gullible and easily, or at least some of them are, easily influenced to go and start up a ridiculous organization like that again because of a talking picture. But let's give some credit to another entity in Denver that's not elected, fortunately, by the same twits who elected Benjamin Stapleton. The Denver School Board is elected separately, and apparently the voters there do a much better job. The Denver School Board has put in a new plan, and I hope it'll sweep the nation, which says that teacher salaries will be set strictly by how much education the teacher has and how many years they've been teaching. That's a very progressive thing. Des Moines has also adopted this, and so that it means the teacher salaries won't be based on, say, paying a woman less or paying a colored person less, that everybody gets exactly the same based on how long they've been teaching and their education. It's a very fair system, and I hope it takes over everywhere, and it's one of the things that helps us fight back against this Klan idiocy.
Well, Ms. Carney, what do you make of this notion that the Klan is simply perhaps a fond romanticism stemming back to D.W. Griffin's recent movie?
That would be D.W. Griffith. And I just say for Shaw, Ms. Bonfils, it was your paper that really did not speak up against the Klan. Did not speak up against the Klan. In 1921, the Denver Post, the Ku Klux Klan is the largest, most efficiently organized political force in Colorado today. And where was everyone when Governor, thankfully, former Governor, Clarence Morley said, this was his campaign pledge, remember? Every man under the Capitol Dome a Klansman. And we had Coloradans running willy-nilly to vote for Governor Morley, vote for Mayor Stapleton. And it's just by the stroke of luck that he survived the recall. In fact, I was so disgusted this last election that I was not able to cast my vote. But I do say that I think we have a fair number of hypocrites sitting around this table. The Klan has been running Colorado and running it hard, running it furiously, and I've not heard much of a hue and cry from the folks sitting around this table.
Well, Mr. Chase, in fairness to the Klan, was there anything socially redeemable that we could...
Fairness to the Klan?
Well, I'd have to disagree with Miss Pearl here, to my right. To my right. But I think the Klan is on its way out, and I think you've seen the end of hate in this city. Never more will you see any more hate in this city, because the Klan, the influence has just died. The Councilman Risley's poor showing in that runoff, and Mayor Stapleton's repudiation of the Klan, Senator Rice Means has been voted out. I think that we've seen the end of hatred in this fair city of ours. I think that Mayor Stapleton is all about business, and by picking this site, well, sure, he bought the dairy farm from Mr. Cannon, but I think it makes sense to abandon the old airport at 38th and Dahlia, the old Lowry Field. We should get out of there because there's too many homes around it. Move it out. Move it out there. You'll never see the city move out that far. It's a very safe place to put it because flying is dangerous.
Can I say, Mr. Chase does make one point, not about the end of hate. Oh, I don't think so, not with what's going on in Denver. But the airport idea, I think you two will rue the day. This is the up-and-coming thing. Look, our neighbor to the east, Kansas City, opened their airport. Denver's got to get involved. And in that way, I do think that Mayor Stapleton is ahead of his time in only that area.
I must respectfully disagree with you, Ms. Carney. We have not had the vote long enough that you can ignore it. You must vote.
Well, I can't vote for anyone who doesn't serve my interest or those of other Negroes? Absolutely not. I'm an American. I can vote or not.
Fascinating discussion, folks. Okay, it's time to take a break and hear a word from our sponsor.
Ladies and gentlemen, this evening's exciting radio broadcast is brought to you by the Denver Dry Goods Company, where you can get anything from seed for next spring to the long flannels you'll soon need. And now, back to our program.
And we're back. And if you're just joining us, let me tell you again who's joining us for our panel for our 1927 Year in Review. We have socialite Helen Bonfils, Ancient Studies Professor Chumley Drizzlewitt, Denver Star reporter Pearl Carney, and Robert Chase, reporter for the Rocky Mountain News. Topic 2. This year, the state of Massachusetts executed Italian anarchists Sacco and Vanzetti for the murder of 2 guards during a bank robbery in 1920. Anti-immigrant and Red Scare sentiments appear to have played a role in their convictions. Meanwhile, here in Colorado, immigrant Catholics continue to be a favorite target for Klan violence. Are Colorado citizens or the rest of America ready to end all the ethnic, racial, political, and labor strife against immigrants that we have witnessed so far this year? Professor.
We were talking about the Ku Klux Klan recently, and I think Cato the Elder would have recognized both the Ku Klux Klan and Sacco and Vanzetti as the same kind of terrorist scum that need to be eradicated. The Sacco and Vanzetti were followers of an Italian anarchist named Gallieni, I believe, and they were an organization that was involved in the bombing of Attorney General Mitchell Palmer's home several years ago. Sacco and Vanzetti actually called in 1926 in a newsletter put out by their own supporters for more violence by their fellow Italian anarchists. It's not even really the right name in the sense they call themselves anarchists, as if they just wanted a peaceful society with no government. They want violence and terror, just like the Ku Klux Klan. And it's sort of ironic that the Ku Klux Klan and the supporters of Sacco and Vanzetti are so divided, because one's Italian and one is old American stock, but they're really both two sides of the same coin of human decay and degeneration. Justice Felix Frankfurter wrote a very good article on the justice of the Sacco and Vanzetti case. It appeared in the Atlantic, as you know, earlier this year. And there were irregularities in the trial, and for that reason the governor of Massachusetts actually delayed the execution even further for a new kind of scientific examination about the bullets used in the murder. And they brought in a scientific expert who showed that the bullet that was used to kill that poor man in 1920 did in fact come from Sacco's .32 caliber Colt firearm. So they killed 2 people in 1920, and it's really outrageous that it's taken until 1927 to execute them, and I say good riddance to them.
7 years to exercise the death penalty. Seems like an eternity. Ms. Carney.
Oh, well, for goodness sake, this is outrageous. I actually don't know if Sacco or Vanzetti were guilty, but when your trial judge calls you those anarchist bastards, that's telling me that you did not get a fair trial. We cannot look at, excuse me, I'm so sorry, but I have to object to how you even introduced the story. You called them anarchists. That's what everybody focused on. They're Italians. They're anarchists. And if your question is this hate going to end? Is this ethnic strife going to end? Absolutely not. I disagree with Mr. Chase with what he said earlier about hate is done in Denver. Absolutely not. The fact that these men were Italian immigrants, that's what fueled so much hate. Look, we've got that law that Congress passed just 3 years ago that reduces the immigration quotas from Italy, from Greece, from Hungary, from all those Eastern European countries. So I got to tell you, Italians in this country, they're treated as bad as Negroes, and I ought to know. So now, and you know what a consequence is? You know what a consequence is of that immigration that's stopping those darker Europeans from coming over here? Thousands and thousands and thousands of Mexicans are coming. Yeah, let's give white folks a little while. I bet you they'll be really mad about the Mexicans.
You think?
I'm thinking they will. I'm thinking they will.
Mr. Chase, do you agree that anarchists are people too?
Well, sure they are, but are they people we want around? That's the question. The business community, the white business community in this city and this state, at the same time is actively importing and encouraging this immigrant labor to come here. Because after all, the Italians in the coal fields in southern Colorado, the Eastern Europeans who are working in Leiden and up in Weld County who are now on strike, they're doing the jobs that Coloradans don't want to do. So it is the business establishment that's bringing them in here in the first place. So I do think that you'll see a melting pot to some degree as that demand just continues to outstrip the supply.
Interesting. Ms. Bonfils.
Well, I would like to remind all of you, including Ms. Carney, that 70 years ago, none of us were here. That all of us are immigrants to some extent. You know, I was finishing school back east, and I can see that there's a lot more, the melting pot is boiling over there, but I think here we have an opportunity to all, if we are willing to come in and work hard, be part of this city, make a better city. The Italians here and down in the Donargo market, I don't know what we do, you know, without them growing so much of our food and running our shops. So I think it's possible to come in and try to fit in and but you want to make sure they appreciate our way of life here. I mean, that's what we fought for.
Follow up the Sacco and Vanzetti, those infamous murders, were actually what finally got Congress to pass the immigration restrictions a few years ago. There had been a long time pressure by the labor unions, especially the American Federation of Labor and others, because of course the corporations and the trusts want to bring in all this cheap labor from Southern and Eastern Europe and reduce the prices, the wages they pay to the working Americans and use them as strikebreakers. And the notion that this is somehow because Italians and Greeks are swarthy, that was the basis of the restrictions. The restrictions also were very strict on Russians, Hungarians, Poles, Balts, people who aren't swarthy in the least. And the idea that Mexicans are going to be some problem is entirely different. These people come over in the braceros, they work in the fields, and then they go back home to Mexico with some more money. That's not at all like the situation we have from Eastern and Southern Europe.
Ms. Carney, a final thought on this.
Oh, Mr. Fallon, oh, bunk. When President Coolidge signed the National Origins Act in 1924, he said, America must be kept American. Now, that's code word for white. That's code word for white European. Because, you know, it's funny, England doesn't have a quota, but it's those countries in Eastern Europe, and Jews, they really don't like those Jews. I'm telling you, that's going to be the case, and it's only a matter of time before these white folks turn on the Mexicans who are coming into this country.
Some interesting food for thought. Let's get on to topic number 3. 1927 has been a year of technological wonders. Lucky Charles Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic last spring. The scientific world is bustling, and just 2 months ago, sound came to the world in the form of Al Jolson's new movie, The Jazz Singer. And even tonight, our regular weekly radio broadcast is also being filmed. We're testing this marvelous new technological advancement and plan to show this talking picture somewhere in Denver's downtown theater district very soon. Do these new forms of disseminating information threaten the newspaper and publishing industries? Ms. Carney, what do you think?
I make my living from a newspaper, but I believe our days are numbered. I can take it back to the telegraph, to when we got electric lights, the telephone, the radio. I do believe that with this new way to communicate information, it's going to make our world smaller. So I don't know. And actually, I'd like to know where you learned how to do the radio, because I'm thinking of changing careers. I don't want to be left with a pencil and pad and no job.
There's an interesting school around the corner. I'll give you
Is
their
that
card.
Really? Thank you very much. Do they take Negro women?
No, they don't. But they might. Mr. Chase, your thoughts?
Well, I think Ms. Pearl is overstating the case here, because I think what will happen is, you know, we have the transatlantic cable now. We have television, or we have the television being tested out. We have radio. And I think that what will happen is the news that's being disseminated over them is originating from the newspaper newsrooms. That's where the news is coming from, the Associated Press.
Very interesting. Ms. Bonfils.
Well, I think we all know we will never see any intelligent discourse on this talking picture. If you want serious, intelligent reportage, you will look at the Denver Post, for example, not Mr. Chase's paper. You know, we are in the middle of a very, an amazing newspaper war right now. I mean, we have started at the Denver Post a morning paper to compete with the Rocky Mountain News, and the Rocky Mountain News has started an afternoon paper to compete with us. Not a very good one, I might say. But the newspaper war has never been as bad as it is right now, and I am certain that within a year or two, the Rocky Mountain News will just surrender, and we'll be down to a one newspaper town. But I think people will always depend on daily newspapers for that intelligent the intelligent reportage.
Professor, could you ever imagine a possibility, a world in which moving pictures and sounds that fly right by you could replace the permanency of letters?
Oh, of course not. I mean, imagine people trying to get their news from the radio, which is now well developed. It's fine if you're in your living room and you happen to be listening at the time that a news broadcast is on, but with a newspaper, you can pick it up and carry it around and go about your business. Who could imagine carrying around a radio, even if you had a cord long enough to supply the power? Newspapers will be around for a very, very long time, probably many centuries to come. They're centuries old and have a wonderful future. But I'm personally, as a newspaper reader, very glad that the E.W. Scripps Company bought the Rocky Mountain News and the Denver Times to really put some competition into the newspaper business in this city. And I think you can see in terms of the respectability of coverage, you have this one man from the Rocky Mountain News who's dressed like a clerk to a stockbroker. And on the other hand, you have the representative of the Denver Post coming as a trollop.
And the representative from the Denver Star.
You're well dressed too. It's certainly no trollop.
Thank you very, very much.
Well, folks, we just have a couple of minutes left. Let's make some predictions for 1928. It's a big election year, a presidential election year, in fact. What do you see on the horizon for the big presidential election year, sir?
Well, I think that the Republicans, with the prosperity we have really got the ball rolling behind them, and the Democrats are really scrambling for candidates. Al Smith, the governor of New York, thinking of running. And I don't think this nation elects a Catholic president, even though the Klan is in decline. We don't elect a Catholic president for at least 100 years. So on the Republican side, with Coolidge not running, I think we have Secretary of Commerce Herbert Hoover, a very good businessman, and we have Senator Dawes from Illinois, who's thinking of running. And so I stopped by the Denver Mint on the way over here, and I picked up a freshly minted 1927 Liberty Quarter, and I think it's a coin toss, and it would be Hoover.
Well put. Miss Bonvies.
Well, and we'll deal with you after this recording. I believe probably the Republicans will stay in power. I think business is growing. It's boom times for us. If you look out east, we have the record wheat crops. The farmers out there are doing a wonderful job of taking that virgin prairie and plowing it up. We're going to have very affluent times here.
Professor.
You would know about the plowing of virgins, I suppose. I predict that Governor Smith will win because this country is getting sick and tired of prohibition. It's called the Great Experiment. It's been a great failure. And the idea that this country wouldn't vote for a Catholic, well, for goodness sakes, William Howard Taft was a Unitarian, and this country voted for him. And if they could handle a Unitarian, they could certainly handle something more mainstream like a Catholic.
And Miss Carney.
For my money, Norman Thomas has my vote. He will be running as the socialist candidate. Norman Thomas truly cares about the little person. I got to tell you, the New York governor does not have a chance. He's from immigrant stock, Italian. Yeah, there's a bit of German there. German, Irish, Italian. He's big city New York. They're going to go with the boy from Iowa. They're going to go with, you count on it, Herbert Hoover. Although Norman Thomas has my vote.
Some good predictions there. Let's get on to the disgrace of 1927. Miss Bonfils.
Well, I would say my colleague to my left is my disgrace, but I'm going to the continuing miners' strike. These people are just trying to earn a living, and they should not be quashed.
Terrible situation. Professor.
The easily duped people who have been led by people like Margaret Sanger and her organization Planned Parenthood and the other eugenics nuts into proposing a national eugenics bill. States like Alabama that want to do that, go ahead, that's their state's right. But there's certainly nothing in our United States Constitution giving government authority over who marries or doesn't or has children.
Crazy stuff. Miss Carney.
That fiend, Galen Locke, the disgraced former Grand Dragon of the Colorado Ku Klux Klan, well, he has another organization called the Minutemen of America. They're up to no good, and they disgrace the name of those real Minutemen.
Mr. Chase.
Well, I think if you look at your movie houses lately, you've noticed that the Fox studios out in Hollywood have started producing newsreels for the talkies.
Incredible.
Just come in for a studio. Fox, especially, to get into the news business, it's outrageous.
There's no future there. And something nice about somebody in 1927.
Well, I'd like to say that we are seeing this new cultural advance talking pictures. You know, this is the year that the Motion Picture Academy will start so that we can see more movies. And I personally am going to make it a mission to bring culture here. I'm going to start a theater on Colfax that will be there in perpetuity. There will always be a Helen Bonfils theater on Colfax until one day my newspaper is sold to build the Denver Performing Arts Complex.
Well, interesting look into the future. Sir.
Our Colorado sports hero, Jack Dempsey, the Manasseh Mauler, and even though he failed to regain the heavyweight title in his fight with Gene Tunney, everyone knows that he really won, and he was deprived of the title only by the infamous long count.
Ma'am.
Denver Judge Ben Lindsay. He has fought so many good fights, and now the Colorado Supreme Court has taken his license away. But he is out with a book called The Companionate Marriage, and he talks about birth control, and he actually advocates something called a no-fault divorce. I believe this man has always been ahead of his time. So, Benjamin Lindsay, wherever you land, best of luck.
Okay, and fine, sir.
Well, if I could just get a little personal, I've just proposed to a fine woman at my work, Mary Coyle, and we're going to be married next year. And I dare say she's a very fine writer in her own right, and she plans to go into playwriting. And I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't win a Pulitzer Prize at some point.
Well, no offense, sir. I don't know if she's that good. Well, thanks for joining us on our little excursion to 1927. We hope you enjoyed the ride in the time machine. From everyone here at Channel 12, I'm Raj Chohan. Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
Ladies and gentlemen, the participants in this evening's radio broadcast were host Raj Chohan, panelists Patricia Calhoun, David Kopel, Dani Newsum, and Kevin Flynn. The producers were Dominic Dezzutti and Larry Patchett. Directed by Stephen Zinn. Technical direction by Kenneth Hendricks. Audio by Larry Patchett. Floor directors Suzanne Aikman. Camera operators Steve Clodfelter, Chris Missling, Tricia Mentor, and Jim Bergstead. Engineered by Manuel Thane. Lighting by Kenneth Hendricks, Manuel Thane, and Chris Missling. Executive producer Kim Johnson. A special thanks to the Denver Public Library Western History and Genealogy Department for use of their fabulous photos. And also special thanks goes to Steve Stevens for letting us borrow this swell mics. Copyright 1927 and 2007, KBDI, Colorado Public Television.